Most living beings need oxygen of air to obtain energy from food. This oxygen reacts with the food molecules like glucose present in the body cell and burns them slowly to release energy. The energy thus released is stored in ATP molecules in the cells. The body can use this stored energy whenever it wants to do so. Respiration is derived from the Latin word respirare, meaning to breathe. Do you know? Respiratory substrates are the organic compounds which are used in respiration to provide energy. Most common respiratory substrate is glucose. Respiration. The process of releasing energy from food is called respiration. Respiration is essential for life because it provides energy for carrying out all the life processes which are necessary to keep the organisms alive. Breathing and respiration. The mechanism by which organisms obtain fresh air from the environment and release foul air into it is termed breathing. Respiration is a physiochemical process. It includes two phases, external and internal respiration. External respiration. It is the intake of oxygen by the blood from water in aquatic animals or air in terrestrial animals in the respiratory organs and elimination of carbon dioxide. Intake of oxygen by blood from air, water and elimination of carbon dioxide. Internal respiration. It includes following processes. 1. Uptake of oxygen by tissue cells from the blood via tissue fluid. 2. Oxidation of food by the action of enzymes. 3. Release of CO2 produced in oxidation by tissue cells into the blood via tissue fluid. 4. Storage of energy released in the form of ATP. C₆H₁₂O₆ plus 6O2 gives rise 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. In respiration, there is a release of energy through oxidation of simple food molecules such as glucose. The energy released in respiration is chemical energy, which gets stored in the form of adenosine triphosphate (ATP) molecules. It is the energy currency for most of the cellular processes, such as protein synthesis, conduction of nerve impulses, etc. Activity Corner. Carbon dioxide is exhaled during breathing. Procedure. 1. Take 2 test tubes A and B and pour some freshly prepared lime water, calcium hydroxide, in each tube. 2. Now blow air in tube B through the lime water with the help of glass tube and observe. 3. In test tube A, pass air through lime water with the help of a pichkari and observe. A. Air being passed into lime water with a pichkari. No change in the color of lime water. B. Air being exhaled into lime water through mouth. Lime water turns milky white because CO2 from exhaled air turns lime water milky. Types of respiration. Respiration can be of 2 types. 1. Aerobic respiration. 2. Anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration. In this mode of respiration, organic food is completely oxidized in presence of oxygen to carbon dioxide and water. This results in the production of ATP, which is the immediate source of energy and used to fuel all activities of the cell. ATP breaks down to give rise to a fixed amount of energy, which can drive the endothermic reactions taking place in the cell. C₆H₁₂O₆ gives rise to CH3COCOOH in the presence of glycolysis. 2CH3COCOOH gives rise 6CO2 plus 36 or 38 ATP in the presence of Krebs cycle. 1. In all cases, the first step is the breakdown of glucose, a 6-carbon molecule, into a 3-carbon molecule called pyruvate. 1 molecule of glucose produces 2 molecules of pyruvate. It takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell and the process is called glycolysis. 2. Krebs cycle. It operates in the matrix of mitochondria. The pyruvate produced during glycolysis enters the Krebs cycle, where after its complete oxidation, CO2 and water are released. This cycle is a characteristic of eukaryotes only. 3. 36 or 38 molecules of ATP are produced on complete oxidation of 1 molecule of glucose. Anaerobic respiration. It is a partial breakdown of food without using molecular oxygen. In this type of respiration, incomplete oxidation of food takes place, and in comparison to aerobic respiration, less amount of energy is produced. It also includes glycolysis, which takes place in the cytoplasm. During this process, one molecule of glucose is converted into two molecules of pyruvic acid, pyruvate, and little energy, 2 ATP is produced. The pyruvic acid can be further broken down in two ways. A. Alcoholic fermentation. B. Lactic acid fermentation. Alcoholic fermentation. It is a kind of anaerobic respiration in which the microorganisms, yeast, break down glucose into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide, and energy, 2 ATP is released. 1 glucose gives rise to pyruvate in the presence of glycolysis. 2 pyruvate gives rise to ethanol plus 2 CO2 plus energy plus 2 ATP. Anaerobic respiration in muscle cells. Lactic acid fermentation. Human muscle cells make ATP by lactic acid fermentation when oxygen is scarce. This occurs at the time of vigorous exercise when demand of oxygen by the muscles is greater than its supply. Therefore, the muscles switch from aerobic respiration to fermentation, resulting in the production of lactic acid. This lactic acid accumulates in the muscles, causing cramps of muscle or muscle fatigue. 1 glucose gives rise to 2 pyruvate in the presence of glycolysis. 2 pyruvate gives rise to 2 lactic acid plus energy, 2 ATP. Points to ponder. Glycolysis, common in both aerobic and anaerobic respiration, which occurs in cytoplasm of the cell. Do you know? First step is glycolysis, common in aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Oxygen is not required in glycolysis. Special points. ATP is the energy currency for most cellular processes. The energy released during the process of respiration is used to make an ATP molecule from ADP and inorganic phosphate. ADP plus P gives rise ADP-P equal to ATP. P. Phosphate. Endothermic processes in the cell then use this ATP to drive the reactions. When the terminal phosphate linkage in ATP is broken using water, the energy equivalent to 30.5 kg per mole is released. Think of how a battery can provide energy for many different kinds of uses. It can be used to obtain mechanical energy, light energy, electrical energy, and so on. Similarly, ATP can be used in the cells for the contraction of muscles, protein synthesis, conduction of nervous impulses, and many other activities. Aim: to demonstrate that germinating seeds produce CO2 in aerobic respiration. Method: put some germinating seeds in a conical flask. With the help of a thread, suspend a small tube containing KOH in the flask. Through the hole of the cork, pass a glass tube bent twice at right angles. One end of the tube is in the flask, while the other end is in the beaker filled with water. Make the apparatus airtight. Note the level of water in the tube. Keep the apparatus for some time and again note the level of water. Observation: it is observed that water rises in the tube. The rise in the level of water is due to a partial vacuum created in the flask because the gas produced during respiration, that is, CO2, is absorbed by KOH. Conclusion: as KOH absorbs carbon dioxide produced during respiration, hence, this shows that germinating seeds produce CO2 during aerobic respiration. Do you know? ATP is adenosine triphosphate, which function as energy currency in various cellular activities. Phosphorylation is the addition of a phosphate group to a molecule. For example, synthesis of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. Do you know? A single molecule of ATP is broken down giving rise to 30.5 kJ per mole or 7.3 kilocalorie per mole energy, which can drive the endothermic reactions taking place in the cell. ATP can be used for the contraction of muscles, protein synthesis, conduction of nerve impulse, and many other activities. Aim: to demonstrate that yeast produce CO2 by fermentation of sugar. Method: Take some fruit juice or sugar solution in conical flask and add some yeast into it. Put a few drops of oil to cut contact of external air. Close the opening of test tube with a 1-holed cork. Insert a bent glass tube in the cork and dip the other end of tube into the beaker containing lime water, solution of calcium hydroxide. Observe after few hours. Observation and conclusion. 1. The lime water turns milky. This shows that CO2 is liberated from the mixture of sugar solution and yeast. Fermentation of sugar results in the production of ethyl alcohol and CO2. 2. Anaerobic respiration in muscle cells. Lactic acid fermentation. Human muscle cells make ATP by lactic acid fermentation when oxygen is scarce. This occurs at the time of vigorous exercise when demand of oxygen by the muscles is greater than its supply. Therefore, the muscles switch from aerobic respiration to fermentation, resulting in the production of lactic acid. This lactic acid accumulates in the muscles causing cramps or muscle fatigue.